Hi, my name is Gary Billotti. I'm here with the Max Loves Midland show.
Hi, welcome back to the Max Loves Midland show. I'm your weekly tour guide, Kevin LaDuke, and this is the show where we see Midland through your lenses. Whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Apple, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts, or if you're listening on the radio on WSGW, we appreciate you being with us here today. And today with me, I have a husband, a father, a community volunteer, and he is the outreach coordinator for the Midland Area Wellbeing Coalition. Welcome to the show, Gary Billotti.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Gary, I'm so happy you're here with us today. We're going to have a lot of fun talking today, and we're going to talk a lot about Welcome to Midland and what that means. But you've been a Midlander for 27 years now. I know that's something you never thought was going to happen. So how does it feel for you to be a part of this community?
Well, Kevin, it feels great. I truly had no idea I would be here this long. Thought it could be a short-term jaunt, I guess, with the family. But longer than I've been anywhere in my life. And it was interesting coming here, didn't have that idea. Lived in the bigger cities, Detroit, Philadelphia, a few others, and wasn't quite sure about Midland, but I'm so glad I'm here. There's so much to offer, and it's my family's grown up here, and we'll stay here for sure.
When you look at the places you've lived, you grew up in Warren, and you grew up in the Detroit area, and that is the economic seat of our particular state, and we live in what I think is a very cool part of our state as well. Talk about that dichotomy of where you grew up versus where you're at right now.
Well, it's interesting, Kevin. Thinking about thinking about doing this, I was thinking about where I grew up and what that was all about. And then it comes, what I start to think about is the fact that I grew up in Warren in a city. They had close to 1 million people at that point back in the day. And it was, I lived on a street in a neighborhood where within two blocks, there was 25 boys that were within 2 years of each other. And that was an amazing experience. And really, I think about it, and I get so involved, and we'll talk about, obviously, the community issues and things that I like to be involved in. But that was a community building. I mean, we had, every day we saw each other, went out in the morning in the summer and came back for dinner and went out again. And it was just a connection. It was a close community. And I still see those people. So it was just a great feeling. And to me, that reflects on what's going on now in my being here in Midland. That community feeling and that connection that I get is pretty special.
And you've had quite an incredible journey. And I know that you met your wife in college, and you two have spent a life of travel and growth together and have shared so many incredible experiences. What does that journey look like for your family?
Well, it's interesting. I think they appreciate it. I think they've had different experiences, and I've got 3 children, and each of them was born in a different state, so they have their own place where they came from. First child I had was in Toledo, Ohio. We were there I was with the YMCA, again another community building experience. Moved out to Delaware, and was out there for a while, and had our second child, a second daughter. And then came back to Michigan, did some work, and ended up here with Dow, and we had a third child, a son. So they came from different places. They weren't there that long. All of them obviously have been in Midland the longest, but they appreciate it too. They realize that there's places to go, and we travel, and we get back sometimes. I love to visit a brother in New York. And I love at the end to leave New York, to be honest. It's a wonderful place to go, as in other places. But coming back to Midland is comfortable, and it is for everybody in our family.
It's a really interesting quote, and I'm not trying to air you out here, Gary, but I know at one point you thought, I will never live in this place, referring to Midland. And at that point in time, you had ties to Mount Pleasant and Central Michigan University. And
yes,
what really made you feel like that at that point in time?
Well, I was going to school at Central Michigan University and worked for a restaurant many of you may remember called the Embers, very fine, nice restaurant in Mount Pleasant. I was a waiter, and we catered to Dow Chemical. So on a few trips, I drove across M20 and came to Dow Chemical and was doing the catering and realized, or driving around, said I would never live in this place. So just to, again, perspective, this was in the late 70s. So it's been a while. Sorry, I gave away my age. But anyway, late 70s. And there was nothing here. Truly, it was a chemical city. It was, that was it. The industry was here, Dow, of course, and the plant and everything else. I don't believe there was much of a mall at that point. No, I don't think there was a mall.
The mall didn't come around until late 80s, early 90s, and town was actually never supposed to go north of Saginaw Road. The way they had it mapped out, so that Eastman corridor was never technically supposed to exist in a planning perspective. But as commerce began to grow, that was kind of an additional boom for Midland, a second or third wave of Midland, if you will.
Interesting. Okay, didn't realize. But yeah, it became obvious. But again, at that point, and just to, an emphasis of our feeling about Midland was we lived near Detroit, and my wife was a teacher, and she took a field trip with the kids up to Midland to see Dow Chemical and how things went. And she happened to be here with the kids when an alarm went off, and there was a spill of some sort. And they hustled out and came back. When my wife came back, said, "We will never, ever live in Midland." So that was the first experience, and again, very different since then.
I think it's very poetic that you both kind of had these polarizing experiences with our community, but yet when I go walk the Tridge on Labor Day, I watch you and your wife walk over and meet you there and have a nice conversation. And this has really become home for you in so many different ways. And I know you had journeys all over the place. Delaware, you said Philadelphia at one point in time. I know Toledo. These are all places of different scales and different importance to you, but I think there's something neat about being in Midland and having these small town connections with this big town feel.
Well, it's fascinating, Kevin. I've thought about that as well. And sometimes I think my career's been scripted. I started out in Ohio, but we went to Delaware, and I was with the YMCA, but a job came open with DuPont. So I became a consultant with DuPont on health issues. And it struck me, what DuPont was. We were in Wilmington, Delaware. Wilmington, a big, small city on the East Coast. Hop, skip, and a jump. You get to New York and Baltimore and Philly and wherever you want to go. But it was a small city in many ways. And there was a DuPont High School and a DuPont Hospital and DuPont this and DuPont and a very philanthropic company. And then we end up, I had a job in between with Johnson & Johnson Healthcare, different story, but then came to Midland, same city. It's Wilmington over again. Unbelievably, that, a big, small city, this little farm town, if I would look at it as a farm town in the middle of the state with really nothing around it, essentially. But yet lots of things that I find that have really been have kept us here. But a big, again, little town. So it was poetic, maybe as you say. It was scripted to come from DuPont to Wilmington, Delaware to Midland, Michigan.
Your educational and career journey is extremely fascinating as well. Let's talk about your educational background. How did you decide what you wanted to go into when you were growing up, and what did that look like for you?
Well, I was very athletic, sports-oriented, so, physical activities, sports, whatever, we were all part of what I wanted to do. When I realized that my skill level did not take me too far after the high school level.
Hey, same. I'm right with you.
I thought I had to move on to something different. But anyway, I started out at Central Michigan University, and I was I had a physical education, non-teaching, which was fascinating. Can't imagine why I did that now, because what do you do with a non-teaching phys ed degree? But I also was majored in public health and a minor in psychology. I knew it's always been around health in some aspect, and it was always very physical health issues. Wanted to be a physical therapist, didn't get in, and so, ended up with an opportunity to go to grad school, and I went to graduate school at Kent State University, and the focus was on exercise physiology and kinesiology. So I got a graduate degree there. Thought I'd stress test the world, and that didn't work. So took a job and worked with the YMCA, which I want to mention. I'm so appreciative of the 5 years I spent at different YMCAs. I mean, truly a community organization. I mean, I think that also enhanced my feeling and my interest in where I was going with my career, whatever it ended up being. So it was really health, without a doubt. and something that was people-facing, community-facing, was building communities, building connections. That's been there all along. Before I came to Dow, I was with Johnson & Johnson Healthcare Systems, which was a subsidiary company within the J&J Band-Aid folks, Tylenol folks. And what we did is we got contracts and managed corporate wellness or health programs. I was a regional director in the Midwest, and we had set up programs with several General Motors facilities and Ford and Union Pacific, Sears, and a variety of others. So it's always been that coming in and trying to start something and create a culture of health in these places, that was always engaging to me. I love the startup opportunity. Love then to move on to another opportunity. So that getting in and getting out, getting in was so great, and creating something, and it felt like, left something behind, made a little difference. And that really guided me to taking the opportunity at Dow, which was a fascinating opportunity, very different, very unique. Not there anymore. I was the leader of health and human performance. People say, you're a Dow chemical, are you a chemical engineer? I had no idea. I can't tell you about 5 elements on the periodic table, but I can tell you about health issues. And so working with the medical director, we did some great stuff, I think, to really help Dow understand and feel how important health was. And it was fascinating, too. The thing, Kevin, that really helped me along, I think it really drove where I was headed, and what was in my heart was, it was not just the physical. We went into issues around mindfulness. In fact, we did a study, and that was just not something that really was accepted back then. We also did a study on presenteeism, what that is. The presenteeism was that whole concept of fact that, when you're absent, obviously you're not producing, you're at home, you're a cost burden, if you will, in some way. But presenteeism is, we're at work. A lot of us are at work, and whether it's anxiety or depression or whatever it may be, we're not producing. There's a problem there. So let's try and address those health-related, mental health and other related issues, including weight and other issues. Could be a safety issue. Let's try focusing on that. So we did a study and did an interesting study that really showed the connection and the cost impact of people who aren't feeling good at work. Again, trying to lead to make changes to make that an onus of the organization to contribute to helping people at work as well and their mental health well-being. So it's kind of interesting.
Well, and you mentioned you definitely experienced a turning point where you went from this exercise physiology and less wanting to stress test the world and moving into this space of confidence building and human connection. And there was a lot of stuff behind that sparked that shift. And the Midland Area Wellbeing Coalition is such a great driving force in our community behind a lot of those principles. But at Dow, you helped align very different departments, different places, and we work in a collaborative space. So you and I work cross-sector within this space of community health in very different ways.
Yes.
But when you were at Dow, you were working with many different departments, whether that's safety, HR, occupational health, and you had this shared focus on employee well-being. And what did that experience help you learn about collaboration?
Well, a lot, Kevin. It really did. Again, every department, every area had its own goals and objectives and so on, but you could identify some commonality, obviously, and some things that can be done that would help each of the folks. And safety, obviously, a primary one that Dow is so great at. And, you get to a point where you're saying, okay, I've engineered everything I can, and it's a safe environment, and there's a lot of safety. There's safety meetings. There's safety is really just drilled in, and rightfully so. It's wonderful, but okay, you get to a point. What about how you're feeling, or your anxiety, or your weight, or lack of physical ability to lift or move things? That's a problem too, and that affects safety numbers. So why don't we do a little more in pushing that, or providing that opportunity for employees to take care of themselves in another way, which will be a benefit to your bottom line, what you're measuring. Workers' compensation, no different. HR trying to do the things that help people feel good about working there. What are the policies? Again, very simple. It's been done, but smoking would be coming one. If you want people to stop smoking and not have medical costs, then maybe you ought to provide everything you can free to help them to stop smoking, whether it's Nicorette, whatever it may be. Small example, but there are many ways to look at it as well. What are we doing for people in terms of their vacation, in terms of paternity leave, those sorts of policies that needed to change, and driven by the realization that causes health issues that cause productivity issues. So it was interesting. I mean, you had to relate it as a company, and it should be, to productivity, the bottom line. I mean, what are we doing? And is it, in fact, helping us deliver to the shareholders a better value? And I think that happened by that collaboration and the realization that each of these independent departments could do something, and it would help everybody. It's WIFM, what's in it for me, what's in it for all is a better way to say it. And it helped, and I think that directly to me relates to what's going on and what can go on, and I've seen go on in Midland with all the different collaboration and other agencies and groups.
Well, and we spoke recently about how all this work is connected in different ways and how you can almost visualize the way that it fits on some sort of model. And we look at the work that Jason Story is doing from a very academic point of view of what does this talent continuum look like? And we've had Jason on the show, and if anyone hasn't listened, I encourage you to go back and watch or listen to Jason's episode and learn a little bit more about that framework, because you will recognize how the work that Gary's doing fits into that. You will recognize how the work that we're doing here at Max Loves Midland as an engagement and participation tool fits into that. And we are all playing these very specific roles in this overall umbrella of truly it's community health. I often refer to Max Loves Midland as an emotional infrastructure initiative. Those are buzzwords, and it's fun to say, but what that really means is how does it fit into community health? And you found this space in your career here with the Midland Area Wellbeing Coalition that I find to be extremely special and extremely unique. And I just adore Kathy Snyder and the work that Kathy has done with the Wellbeing Coalition. So let's talk about your work with the Wellbeing Coalition. How did you get connected to this work? And how did you feel like this connected to what you've been able to master within your career, and also how you play as a role in this community?
Okay, appreciate that. Well, it's interesting. As I was toward the end of my time at Dow, one of the things that I started to do was to go outside the doors, outside the walls of Dow, get more community engaged, realizing that. And again, if you relate it to the cost impact, if you will, healthcare cost of a company is much more family than it is the actual workers in an organization. So what are we doing to reach out in the community? And let's start to create a community effort. This was, again, way back then. And we started an organization. And then as I phased out of Dow, I continued with that organization, MHIA, Michigan Health Information Alliance. Yep. So many people were aware of that. And did some community work, so leading a little community effort on community health. Started to make connections and identify opportunities within the community. Molly Maben was one of those early ones. Dick Dolinsky did a lot of work, Legacy Center and others. So these are folks that got engaged and started to, extend, I guess, what I was doing, or give me the opportunity to continue in the community what I was starting to do at Dow. But the thing that came along really was when the training became available. There was a group of community leaders that talked about the interest and need maybe for this training in positive psychology. And they brought in some folks and ended up having a contract with an organization based actually out of Australia. But they did, they created a 6-month essentially training. And a lot of community leaders had started to take that. I think it was 2019, 2020 is when we really kicked it off. And I was contacted by someone saying, this would be something that probably you'd like to do or you'd feel good about doing. And I agreed and went through that training in the COVID year, 20, which is interesting. But that really opened the door, and it actually sparked what may have been a little ember that it wasn't sparking in me for a long time, and that was the whole psychological perspective, the mental health, the issue that's so important on how people feel about themselves and how they feel confident and how they build or understand their strengths. All of those things just felt right, and we hadn't done a lot of that at Dow, whatever the reasons may be. But this allowed me then to really explore and get into that. And then the Wellbeing Coalition came out. Was was a phoenix, came out of the embers. And Kathy Snyder obviously leads that and does a phenomenal job, but helped to create, and others with the Midland Community Foundation created this organization and started to do some things. And I became aware of it. And joined, and then an opportunity came that some grant money, I guess, opened up, and they needed one to reach out. You get an organization like that, nobody knows very few know what's going on. How do you really get the word out and get out in the community? So they decided they needed a outreach coordinator, and I came along, and I said, this is interesting. Yeah, I've been doing consulting for a while and with health departments and other organizations, but I think I'd like this, but not a lot. I really am not interested in another full-time job by any means, but I want to get my hands involved. I want to get engaged a little. So it worked. Kathy brought me on, and I do it part-time, but volunteer the rest of the time, which is always an add-on, but that's good. I enjoy it. And it just helps me to meet some needs that I felt needed to be filled. And actually, I give you the validation of that. One of them comes from the past Surgeon General, who wrote in an outgoing paper, just basically saying the most important thing in our health going forward is community and connection and engagement. That is contributing to so many issues for us, health issues and beyond, that we really need to spend more time and engage in that. So, if a Surgeon General says it's good for me. And that just really solidified my feeling of, I'm in the right place.
Yeah, one of those most important contributing factors to the way that we feel about ourselves and the place that we live is just how involved we are and how emotionally connected we are to this place. And the whole idea of Max Loves Midland came directly from those principles. And that's why love is a part of the name of Max Loves Midland.
Yes.
And it's just such a driving factor in what we're doing here. And when you look at that talent continuum that we spoke about, that Jason Story's developed, and you look across all of those different spaces on there, that fits in there in different ways. And one of those things is when we are in the courtship process to bring a new community member to our place, it is so important that we are getting ahead of that ball and welcoming people with open arms. And one of the things that has been born out of the Midland Area Wellbeing Coalition, and folks can head to the front page of the Max Loves Midland website and see a link for it right now. It is active, is this initiative that you helped to drive, which is called Welcome to Midland, which I feel like is so important for the future of this community. And let's talk about Welcome to Midland. What does Welcome to Midland mean to you? And let's give a quick overview of this initiative.
Okay, Kevin, thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's very exciting to me. And, it comes from my experience coming to Midland, to be honest. When I came with Dow, full disclosure, I was not sure it was the right place. First time in the corporate fishbowl of a major company. Hadn't been there before. I was independent, worked in regional stuff out of my home and whatever. In any case, it was tough. And so what we did at that point when I came to town, and it was a while, I thought, is this the right place for me? I wasn't sure. So I actually stepped back a little bit and then made the decision after a lot of discernment, this is where we need to be, and came in. And I realized that, what we needed was to feel welcome, wanted, engaged, that we weren't out there just to explore, particularly because, as I mentioned before, I was coming to Midland. I mean, this small farm town, what are we going to do here? So it made sense to me, and it continued to make sense to me. And so what's come up is a feeling, and again, as Kevin's saying, in terms of the Midland Business Alliance, what they're trying to do with bringing people to Midland and keeping people in Midland. I know it's an issue. It always will be, I guess, as well. But what we're developing is this initiative that when someone comes to town, whether they're renting or buying, and we can have this identified in a variety of ways. We're working primarily now, we're starting to work with the realtors in the city. So when someone comes in, buys a house or rents a house or whatever, they're given this information. If you're interested, we've got trained some community ambassadors, individuals who've been around, have a passion for Midland, understand Midland in a variety of different ways. Some have kids, some are older, some have older kids, some are young professionals, independent, and they're ready to help people reach out and help people get engaged. So people can connect through Max Loves Midland by any means, or on the website of the Wellbeing Coalition, and they can check off and say, yeah, I'd like a community ambassador. Do a little brief survey that just asks some questions about some background, so that when an ambassador contacts that person, they know that, if they're contacting a young family that's come from, I don't know, some small town in Michigan or wherever, there's one focus that needs to happen and one thing they need to talk about. But if they're contacting someone that's just moved in from New York or Dallas or wherever it is, there's a whole different perspective coming in. So what is it that you want to play up as an ambassador? What do you want to share and make sure those people buy into and appreciate what Michigan has to offer? So it's that connection. It's that hand-holding, if you will. It doesn't go beyond at this stage. And it's interesting, actually. The other day I was talking with an individual who actually did some work for Dow years ago as this same sort of welcoming. And this was years ago, so things have changed. But what they did, actually, this person was paid full-time to do this, and people were, to not only just make the connection, but kind of be a buddy, take them around town, get them to the doctors or the schools or wherever it may be. So it's a lot more hand-holding and specific. This program is not doing that. First of all, we're volunteer-based, but also this is about connection. This is about having an ambassador who can really dig into and know what's going on between the lines. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you can get, and Max is a tremendous resource to know what's out there. But what's out there is what people communicate to Max to put on there for the most part. And so we've got these ambassadors are more understanding about what's between the lines. So the book clubs and the moms clubs and all the different organizations and small groups of people that may be what these new people need or want coming in to feel more connected.
What I think is so refreshing about this is when we look at a lot of initiatives, statewide, nationwide, this challenge of talent is the same challenge that almost every community is dealing with.
Absolutely.
And even folks with a healthy population base, and I would think Midland does have a healthy population base, but we see changes in our region. And traditionally that indicates what could be coming our way, at least here at the local level. And we're trying to get a hold of that and get ahead of it. But, and you have a special connection to the realtors in town. I know your son is a realtor here. And I'm sure that the concerns of people are not universal. They're all individual.
Yes.
So these pieces that are like these welcome wagon style deliveries or these websites like Max Loves Midland, the content is trying to be as wide scale as possible, but it doesn't drill down to the emotional piece of you as that individual.
Yes.
And in a society where we're constantly looking to cut corners and artificial intelligence is there and we're looking to shortcut our way to things, you're understanding that this work is hard work and it's personal work and it's personalized to each individual.
Yes, very much so. And I think that's so important. Did some research on this before we started almost a year ago now and thinking about this and trying to bring it to fruition. But the research I did was talking to city folks from Ann Arbor and Lansing and Grand Rapids and about 4 other cities in Michigan, along with some outstate. What do you do in this area? And I truly have not seen anybody doing this level. There's still and I'll give credit, to the welcome wagon approach and someone attacks you by any means. And, here's some things to do, which is fantastic. And that's part of what we want to do as well. But nothing that I've been aware of really takes it to that next level. And as you point out, Kevin, it's difficult. You got to have the right people and the people that are enthusiastic and believe and really can, recommend stuff based on experience that it just doesn't often come. The starter kits, we've got starter kits that are available downtown. When people come in, they get a starter kit, and working closely with the Great Lakes Bay region, the Downtown Visitor Center.
Yep.
So people come down there and they'll pick up one, or we'll have one of our community ambassadors take one to a new person in town. And that kit's got it could be crazy with stuff, as you all been to rest areas or wherever you've been to see all these pamphlets, and they don't go anywhere. But, we try to focus on some of the main areas. So I think it's about the Nature Center and the library and the Midland Center for the Arts and the Dow Gardens, and the Loons. Some of those big stuff. So it's just, wow, I didn't realize this is here. and we focus there, and then we go to specifics and within for an individual. So we've broken it up and say, if you're young, a single person, professional, here's Frick's Bar, here's other places in town, the bowling alleys, whatever, things that may be more appropriate for that person, and talk with someone about that so they feel, okay, they really know me and they want to help me out. So.
And you've been practicing this personally for a long time as well. And I know we have Midland Neighboring Week coming up, and I've got a Celebrate Neighboring sign here. So
yes.
When we talk about Neighboring Week, and I'll just set it up here for just a moment, Neighboring Week, it takes place September 28th through October 4th this year. And I know that you've been celebrating Neighboring Week with your own personal block parties here for about 10 years, which is absolutely incredible. And I think neighboring has long been the cornerstone of what we're talking about right now, and it's cornerstone of Max Loves Midland. It's the cornerstone of these concepts, and this has been implemented originally by our faith communities quite some time ago to bring people together and draw those connections between people, because if we can't talk to our neighbor across the street, how are we supposed to build bonds regionally, locally, nationally, and internationally?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's so important to keep that in practice and take a look at that. Since then, Neighboring Week has grown into this extremely large grassroots movement. We had Wally Maton on last year to talk about neighboring.
Yes.
We had Joyce Hagen-Flint on to talk about her block parties. And these are just incredible stories of people that are really taking the practices that we've spoke about in this conversation and put them into action. So what does Neighboring Week mean to you?
Well, it's exactly, you're capturing a lot of it, Kevin. It's that community, that connectedness. I come from an era when we sat on the front porch still and talked to everybody and said hi to everybody who walked by. Well, that doesn't happen much anymore for a variety of reasons. But, what we do with this Neighboring Week and for us in this block party just became so wonderful, so valuable, so essential and we've had new people move in and that's the exciting part. But we have 70, 80 folks that come from just a corner area of a couple streets that come each year. And they many have told me, this is great. This is the only time that I actually have been able to talk to my neighbor. And then we go in, okay, well, you got to make it more often. Let's do more things. But at the same time, at least it says there's an impact there. There's something going on. The other thing that occurs is, we don't know our neighbors and what they do. Giving one example, there's a family down the street, Shauna and Paul Barbeau, a wonderful family, a wonderful couple. Shauna is very engaged in Big Brothers Big Sisters. Well, we've talked, and nothing's occurred yet. Shauna, I'm still thinking. But still, about what neighbors are doing and what there may be some things going on that you can get engaged in the community. So someone invited me into the library, Friends of the Library Board. I was on that for 8 years only because of a neighbor that said, hey, you may be interested in doing this. So those things are wonderful. You'll not only get to know the neighbor and smile and say hi and have those conversations about where the kids are, what they're doing, but you also get a chance to then expand what you can do in the community because of their connections. So, it's been wonderful. That's what neighboring is to me in any way. Not just having to physically. I mean, obviously it's nice when they're neighbors 2 doors down, but neighboring in any way. A shout out to Live Oak. Have to just a wonderful place for neighboring to occur from people from all over.
Physical manifestation of neighboring.
It
truly.
It is. So
as we talk about neighboring, we're looking forward to celebrating some neighboring here. That is
absolutely
September 28th through October 4th coming up here. Neighboring Week. We're gonna have a lot of fun and. Encourage everyone, plan something with your neighbors. I think this episode is extremely timely to be able to plug Neighboring Week in addition to Welcome to Midland. And your neighbors here in the next few years might see a little one running around your yard. I know you've got a grandkid now.
Yes, I do. I'm so thrilled. Yes, and it happens to be one of my kids who live in Midland, which is great because I can see my new grandson. 5 months old, and it's wonderful. So he'll get around soon. Right now, I'm happy to hold him and make him smile and laugh. That's where we're at. But I'm looking to play catch with him real soon.
Absolutely. I was fortunate enough to have a very special relationship with my grandpa and still do. I was raised by my grandparents. I went in with them at 5 weeks old and, just never left. So my grandpa and I, he's still my best friend. And I think it's so special for you to have that relationship with your grandson. And man, those days playing catch, you're both going to remember that forever.
Oh,
So
no question. Thanks,
look forward to
Kevin.
giving that on. And, you talked about playing catch, and we didn't talk about this beforehand. So growing up, you said you were athletic. What kind of sports were you playing?
Well, I played a lot of baseball. Played baseball extensively. I mean, I said with my neighborhood, it's in the summer. There was a movie they made about us called Sandlot.
The Gary Billotti story, Sandlot.
And, I wanted to get some credit for that, but no, it truly wasn't. I mean, it's in the morning, you get up and you run and you go to the field and that's it. You come home at night, you have dinner and you go back out. And so baseball was big. Through school, I played football and basketball. I loved basketball a lot. Maybe loved it more, but my genetics didn't help me out in that area, so I could not play a long time. My height is a little compromised for that game. But anyway, those are two of the main ones.
It's funny. I grew up playing basketball and baseball as well. Okay. Basketball was probably my favorite. I definitely excelled more at baseball.
Okay.
And played more baseball just because there's more, season and there's a few more leagues you can pop into here and there. But played all through high school, middle school, elementary. Loved both. And that's carried over as an adult into some, recreational sports and some fandom. Do you still follow any professional sports or college sports, or what's on your mind or what's on your television set when you're checking into what's going on in the sports world?
Well, the whole fantasy thing, is caught. I've caught the bug.
Okay. Fantasy football specifically?
Football and baseball. I have teams. So
fantasy baseball's tough.
It's tough. It takes a lot of work, a lot of keeping on top of things on a daily basis. It's a little intense, but it's fun. Anyway, so those two. So, believe it or not, this is true. I've loved the Lions forever, not just because I'm on the bandwagon, because they're great now. I have loved the Lions. So that's one team, of course. And then, I'll give you one. I love the Boston Celtics, and the reason part is, I love college ball, is I remember at Central Michigan University, this is a quick story, that I went to a game, CMU against Indiana State.
Oh, okay.
1979.
I think I know who was on that team.
You sure know it was that team. And Larry Bird came into town and lit up the arena for 50-some points. And I just thought to myself, this is the future of the NBA. So that was amazing. And it just really hooked me again. And so it hooked me with the Celtics forever. So I'm sorry, I'm not a Pistons fan. I'm a Celtics fan.
I'm an enormous Pistons fan, huge Pistons fan, and which is surprising because, talking dates here, I was born in 91. So okay. I didn't watch Bird and Magic in their heyday. I will say I think Bird and Magic are the two most important players in the history of the NBA just because they set the tone. But yes. I think the greatest player to ever play wore number 23, and he played in Chicago.
Oh,
so
Michael.
the first player that I ever really latched onto was Michael Jordan. But luckily, a few years after Jordan retired, I came to my senses, and I have this regional attraction to our sports teams here.
Sure.
I think, that Larry Bird story coming to Central, though, I can't W on that. And the Celtics were incredible forever and still come back and are incredible.
Yeah.
So it's unbelievable. But for me, I'm a huge Pistons fan, and, I love following the Pistons. When it comes to baseball, do you follow the Tigers? And
I do.
how are you feeling about this playoff run?
Oh, I love it. In fact, I went to Tigers fantasy camp a few years back and batted against Mickey Lolich.
That's amazing.
Oh, it was a dream come true. So yes, Tiger fan as well.
Yeah, hopefully the bullpen can hold it together. Hopefully the starters can hold it together right now. Other than Skubal,
hopefully the starters hold it together physically, because they had such an issue with the health issues. Somebody goes down, they're in trouble. But
of course. Do you head out to Loons games at all too? And I keep the Loons stuff behind me here. We go all the time. Live downtown, walk there. You hear me talk about it on the show all the time. So
I was going to tell you, why don't you have Kershaw bobblehead?
Listen, hey, we take what we can get from the ballpark, right?
Understand.
We take what we can get from the ballpark. So your life here in Midland. You and your wife love to have a good time and enjoy this community, and you have family here. And if you were planning a day in Midland and you're looking at Midland through your lenses, what does a day look like for you here in our community?
Well, I appreciate that, Kevin. It's going to be different in the different seasons, of course. But if I think about what's going on now in the summer and the spring and the fall, when I can do things, I like going out and sitting on my deck with a cup of coffee. I live in a neighborhood. There's a lot of trees. And, it's almost, as I grew up in Detroit, so it's almost, I'm kind of up north, right? So my son has always told me when he was little, if you go over the Zwaukee Bridge, you're in the little up north. Then you go to the Mackinac, you're in the real up north. In any case, love getting up and starting my day like that, just relaxing. I love the peace of sitting there and just thinking about what's going on. Definitely do on my computer, look at what's going on in the Midland Daily News and others, just get a sense of what's happening. I love to work in my yard. I love landscaping, just in my yard. So it's my hobby, and Midland's a great place to have that kind of hobby. A lot of good resources. Maple Lane, Maple Hill, I guess, is a place, and a lot of the other building places. So I've got a lot of sources to be able to do things, and I feel good about that. I would definitely, in the summer, I enjoy immensely the Wednesdays, the music at Dow Gardens.
Yes.
Every Wednesday afternoon is unbelievable. It's just relaxing and getting out there, and just a great environment, great place. I love that. I love music a lot. It's pushing right up against sports, neck and neck. And we've got places in town where we can listen to music. Vidu often has entertainment going on if you eat at a nice Indian place
Love
in town.
Vidu. We haven't talked enough about Vidu on this show. Vidu's great.
And it's peaceful. It just, to me, reflects the feeling that I get in Midland. Throughout the day, just reading what's going on, thinking about what's going on. It's nice being semi-retired, I guess, but still, it's a comfortable, peaceful feeling, and I guess that's really the day I enjoy and I remember about Midland, just being able to relax, take in. I will walk every day. I have to admit, that's one thing. Sally, not every day, I know. I was talking to my wife. I try. Shout out, Sally.
Had to break the wall there.
I try. Anyway, and it's not just a walk anywhere. I love that we can, I walk the gardens every now and then. My Michigan's got a wonderful trail system in there with a nice bridge. It's just really relaxing and comfortable, 3 miles or so to do. Or on the rail trail downtown, out on the rail trail is great. It's in the Rogers Park. It's got a new park on Saginaw that was developed, which is really cool, very interesting. So I try to change it up every now and then, so it's not the same, but it's, I see different things, and it's just a nice way to spend. So I try to get a walk in. Community center, I'm a member, and participate there. Pickleball every now and then, definitely. Love the courts and love the availability to do that. So that's probably a good, comfortable day. And whether I'm eating at Vidu or having 2 conies on Tuesday at A&W, either way, there's a variety, but it's a great experience to do that. Thanks.
I love that your day consists of these themes that we've talked about throughout this episode: health, wellness, community involvement, and being in these places. And you love this place and you care about Midland, and it went from a place that you said, I'll never live there, to a place that you are uplifting, championing, and actively working to make a better community. So I ask you, when you look at the future of Midland, what are some of your hopes and dreams for this place?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think in what I do, a lot of what I do is working in nonprofits and organizations, and I see the full scope of people in Midland, and what I'd like to see, and it's difficult, a lot of issues, whether it's access or economics, whatever it may be, but we have definitely, disclosure, a dichotomy of Midland. We have folks that are very well off, well-to-do, without question, and that's fantastic. I mean, that's what's important, that's needed. But we have, I think, about 30% of our folks are identified as ALICE population, folks that are, asset-limited, income-constrained, and employed, but difficult situations. A lot of amazing folks that are homeless and so on. We have a lot of great stuff in Midland, and we do reach out, and we're I'm amazed at the amount of opportunities potentially, but I still see there's lots of room for opportunity and growth in that. So what I like to see is a little more of melding, an opportunity in Midland to make sure that the people that need it do truly have access and are encouraged and can get the support they need in terms of food, shelter, economics, and so on. So we just got to keep working on that. I think I have no doubt in the 27 years I've been here, there's been improvement in my mind and what I see and what I'm involved in with Open Door and other agencies I volunteer for. but I think there's opportunity there.
Well, thank you so much, Gary. And one more time, we're talking about Welcome to Midland. Where can people find more information?
They can go right to Max Loves Midland, right on that front page. You just go to Max Loves Midland. That's it. That's all you need to know. You also can go to the Midland Wellbeing Coalition, by all means, and there's a webpage there. We'll start promoting this a lot more. We're coordinating with Neighboring Week, and there'll be a little social media blitz here and there. Hopefully, you'll have watched this show and you'll say, hey, I know I want to do that. But those are two places to connect right now at this point. You'll hear more about it as we come. One more mention on Welcome to Midland. I just want to add this because this is, the design and the initial thought is, okay, when people come to Midland for the first time from outside Midland, whether they're from India or Saginaw, whatever, we want to get to them and get them to feel good and comfortable. But this is also something available to people who've been here for a year, 2 years, whatever. I was talking to a lady the other day who's lived here for 32 years, and she was amazed at some of the things I talked about that are available here. So we know that that's always an issue. So we want to keep people in Midland as well. So it's not exclusive to folks who've moved into Midland, although that's kind of the target at this point. But it's definitely a resource I think you can go to for whatever stage you are.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today, Gary. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. I enjoy it. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for being here with us today. We appreciate you joining us here with the Max Loves Midland show. Whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, or you're watching on YouTube, or if you're just catching clips online, or you could be listening to this on WSGW, we really appreciate you spending a little bit of time with myself and also Gary Billotti, our guest today. Remember, this show is truly about you guys. Head over to maxlovesmidland.com. We've had over 4,500 events posted on the website and counting. We could be over 5,000 at this point. You can find everything from things to do outdoors, things to theater, art, whatever you're into. We have everything categorized there. Please check it out. There's also a wealth of resources for you. It is your tool to be used. And remember, Max Loves Midland is your show. And this show is not complete until you're a part of it. And we can't wait to see Midland through your lenses. Thank you. Subscribe wherever you consume media. Max Loves Midland is your entertainment, resources, and collective improvement hub for Midland County. Plan your next adventure in Midland at maxlovesmidland.com.